Hello everybody and welcome to another edition of The Watching Men. My name's Karl.
I'm Mark, and normally I like to start the show with some sort of wrestling news or sports news, but with everything that's going on in the world of missexual conduct, I am not touching any of that with any barge pole whatsoever till we get some facts come out and we see what comes out in the wash or what's not coming out in the wash. Anyway, Karl, it's been a busy week. We both did the Apple show yesterday. You then decided to become a media mogul and do another review, and somehow you managed to sneak in time to watch Spenser Confidential.
Yeah, I did that over the weekend. Actually, it's quite. I found a few hours free while I wasn't doing something. It's amazing. I am exhausted. Anyone watching the video might see I look shattered. I don't know, but
it's basically not been off YouTube all weekend. There's always like, Carl's doing this, Carl's doing that.
It's proper work most of the time. YouTube and stuff is the bit I use to relax. It's the actual job. It's the pain in the butt.
I bet you felt nice and relaxed after starting work at 4:30, going through the whole day, and then finishing the Apple event.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. I was shattered at the end of it. It's just, oh well. And then I had to get up again 4:30 this morning, do another load of work, and then come home and do this. So I get 2 days off after this, thank God, so before I do my next show. Oh my God.
You've been so busy, you've dropped out of watching one of the shows that we were watching, haven't you?
No. What? I'm still watching them.
I thought you said you weren't watching Snowpiercer anymore.
No, so what? So what we're going to do is I have been watching Snowpiercer, but I'm not sure for how much longer because the problem is I've got with it, I still can't get past the premise. The premise is bloody stupid. And I know it's sci-fi, and I know most sci-fi things are bloody stupid, and we should just let it go. But there's just something about the train hurtling around the world with 1,001 carriages on a track that was built. So I don't understand why it's got to go around the world. It makes no sense to me. And when it was a movie and when it was a comic book, they can get away with that. You know, because it's normally a fairly short story or it's a fairly short film. And I think it was a kind of short film, actually. So you don't spend that much time worrying about the general conceit of it all. But when it comes down to an extended TV show, you've got nothing but time to worry about it, to think about it. And of course, the way the story that they seem to be developing is just a cop drama on a train that's hurtling around the world and the world frozen. It makes no sense.
It's a bit like I tried to watch the 100. I don't know if you've ever seen that, where there was this big space colony, big accident. Somehow all the kids ended up on a planet. They try and take it, and there were colonies forming, all that sort of stuff. I know, horrible generalization, but I couldn't get into that, and I'm really struggling to get into this because it's like we know it's 12 episodes long, and yet it's become episodic. And it's just like, what was it? Oh, what are we up to here? We've done episode 2, like episode 3. And there's one episode, right? So let me try and get
episode 6, I believe, in the States. So
yeah,
I'm
if they didn't keep mentioning the train of, petrol motion, okay, stop ramming that in. We're trying to have disbelief. They seem to like shoehorning the fact it's 1,001 carriages long. Stop shoehorning that in and just sort of let us just put that to the side, because I think when you're reminded of it, it just becomes jarring. And they're not as jarring as my favourite scene in episode 3. So we're going through the cars, right? We're in first class, and I wrote this. There is one scene where they appear to be playing backgammon. Chinese guys loses and start stripping off while being surrounded by scantily clad ladies. But the very next shot is of kids running through the same car.
Well, they're decadent, isn't it? Isn't that what they're showing?
Yeah, but you're decadent. So it's all right for people to be playing backgammon and stripping off, and then the very next scene you've got young kids running through the same car. I mean, Is this supposed to be
Well,
Roman times
I
with
don't know.
Caligula?
It is like written by people from Hollywood, so who knows? So-
And then by episode 3, and we are hitting spoilers here because it's up to season, they've already the mystique of Wilfred. And by the way, I've got to come back to that W logo because this is my biggest problem with Snowpiercer.
did you recognise the voice as soon as you hear his recorded? Well, I'm assuming it's recorded voice.
No,
You didn't recognise that voice.
no.
Sean Bean, straight away. You know who it is. The voice is so distinctive.
Oh no, you've said it. Yes.
It's so obvious. What's
Well,
the point?
this makes sense.
I hope they don't
because-
do a big reveal later on saying, "Oh, look, and it's Sean Bean." Well, no,
No.
because we can understand his voice. We can hear his voice.
And also, not only that, halfway through episode 3, we get in the biggest drop that Wilfred doesn't exist. But we did get, after this bombshell, where it's a nice sort of tease that he may not exist, a lovely long tracking shot of Jennifer Connelly's legs.
Oh dear.
Episode 3, we're now playing diversity bingos. We've got the Chinese, the topless, the kids, Sean Bean, Jennifer Connelly's legs. Now to get the full diversity card, we've got one-armed man in a boxing match.
Okay. All right, okay.
Yep.
Wasn't that a joke at some point? Anyway, but I don't
Yeah,
know.
and so it's like,
But I've see the problem. Firstly, the sheer because of the way they've set the story up and it's on the carriage, every scene feels claustrophobic because there's no open spaces unless they do an external shot showing the vistas. There's nothing. Everything's compressed. Everything's like packed. Most of the shots are person walks from left to right, person walks from right to left, because that's all they've got. I mean, they've got a very finite amount of place to shoot and try and make it look interesting. They obviously got a lower deck and an upper deck as well, and they try and take advantage of that. But still, everything feels like compressed and pushed in, and I guess that's the point they're going for. But everything looks muted, even like the upper class bits look a bit muted and depressing. In fact, the only car that seems to be like visually exciting is the fish tank car,
which they haven't come back to, because I bet there's a sort of, right, the budget. We've got to keep
They do come back to it in, because I've seen episode 4. They do come back to it, but then, like I say, so they've got this strange futuristic setup where, as you say, they're hurtling around the planet, 1,001 carriages. And they got the poor at the back, they got the rich at the front, and the various other classes in between. But then they turn it into a cop show, and it's just your basic, at least the first 4 episodes. It's just your basic cop show. It's a procedural, like find the bad guy, catch the bad guy, interrogate the bad guy, go after the next bad person, and it's just weird.
In episode 4, again, it had a nice build-up because you've got the psychotic ginger, which, pot, black, kettle, mellow, with a psychotic boyfriend, and they were chopping off arms, legs, and various male parts. We get the briefing of descriptions about why they did it, and I sort of went, okay, right, they can pan this out. Maybe she'll get away with it. Maybe she'll be the sinister bad guy that week after week, or bad person, week after week that's doing these crimes, and they get ever closer and don't quite catch them. But no, the super cop gets it in that one episode. So we've gone, because they spent weeks building up these murders, and then it's like, done. And you think, again, another wasted opportunity. I worked out that the average time for a bedroom scene is about 16 minutes. I've got that down to a timing now. You can almost go, well, they're going to shoehorn that in.
Exactly. How many flipping sex scenes have we got to sit through? And they're not even attractive sex. They're just like...
Well, they don't... I mean, season 6 was the most risque it got. I mean, they went as full on as nipple blurring, for what I can imagine, from what I saw. But it's like, I'm not against it, but what is it adding?
Exactly, I don't understand, and I wouldn't mind. Right? Okay, you tell me this. You watched. It sounds like you watched as far as at least I've watched. Who are we meant to be rooting for? Because they're all bad people, as far as I can tell.
Because the detective guy, who is the tailie, has got this girlfriend, and we think the kid's his, and they're all loved up. The second he's out of that back carriage, he's already smashed his ex-girlfriend. And you just think, so you've just taken away the credibility of this upstanding person, this bastion of morals and a compass that always points north. Straight away, Lego. But now in this episode 6, I'm not going to spoil it for you. Guess it's come back to haunt him.
Oh God! Oh, don't. Is there a romantic twist that all goes awry or something?
Oh no! All I'm going to say is it looks like she's going to be putting on weight, but doesn't need a diet.
But I don't know. I just find that I'm really struggling. It's not must see. Not one episode has finished where I go, oh, I must watch the next episode.
Episode 6 is the worst so far.
See, this is depressing because it's already been given a second season before it was even aired.
I can see why. I mean, if you've got a few shots of Jennifer Connelly is an acting machine in this, but there's just no one there that can.
But is
that
she?
Can back her up.
But she's a good actress or actor, but she's not exactly got a lot to work with here. She just walks around looking stern, giving the odd occasional glance here, there, wherever, acting a bit shifty. It's hardly like stretching her repertoire, is it?
But in episode 6, she starts to become a little bit more Ray-like.
Am I gonna? Oh no. Am I going to have to? Okay, I'm going to have to carry on until episode.
You've got to get. We need to commit to at least episode 10 because it's what is it, 12 episodes?
Well, if we go that far, I might as well go all the way. So
yeah, but it's what is it? She's like the bestest ever at doing everything. And then what gets me is that there's a disaster scene. And it's so bad. It's so bad.
Oh yes. Well, you're not really spoiling it because I don't care. But
I'm not going to spoil.
But
then about 2 minutes later, we have yet another sex scene or intimacy scene, which is longer than the actual scene of when, oh my God, the train, blah, blah, blah. I'm not going to spoil it too much. And I'm thinking, there's some mixed up timings going on here.
Yeah.
It's a show that could have potential, but it just never...
I don't think it did. I seriously do not think this show had potential. The premise is so flawed to begin with. If you spend any amount of time thinking about it, you go, hang on a minute. You can prevent the world from freezing, but you managed to build a railway line that goes all the way around the world. Somehow the track managed to maintain itself. You've managed to go...
Yeah, that bit got me as well.
So it doesn't work. For example... My crappy little train down the road here, is always breaking down. Always. And it's always down to something on the track or breaking the track. So it wouldn't last 5 minutes if a Network Rail were running it. Let's put it that way. But
the one thing I struggle with Snowpiercer the most, and I can't shake it, is when you see the W for Wilford Industries, it's the WordPress logo.
Oh, yeah. I guess it is.
I can't...
Any W with sans, I guess, looks like that, I suppose.
And I like the fact as well, by the way, that it only took 7 years for people to do the W on their chest. Whenever they talk about Wilford, what they was like, by God, we've devolved quickly.
Yeah, I don't think it's a very good show, unfortunately. It's another one in this series, high concept idea, not practical. Really, if you think about it too long, it all falls apart. The fact that the characters are not very approachable or likable in any shape, way, or form makes it really hard to root for anyone in particular so far. Also, the way it's shot and the way it's lit and the way people are dressed and made up. I can't tell who the hell some people are. Even 4 episodes in, I go, well, who's this person?
I had that. It was like, hang on, there's a person that's just jumped into shot and she knows a lot more. And I'm going, I'm sorry, but I really can't remember you.
Which, is a problem. If they don't make an impact on you when they appear with important information to commit, then it's going to struggle later on. I don't know. I just feel I'm going to watch it now out of spite to see how it ends. That's the enjoyment I'm going to get out of it from now on.
And this is the thing, we enjoy being grumpy old men, but I came into this looking forward to it, thinking, because I'm still a bit torn up about Picard. I was thinking, come on, just give me a show to get into. And I think I'm going to have to sort of jump back a season and get into The Expanse, because we're starting to see shows come in now that are doing this episodic week by week format. And I thought that had gone. I thought we were at a generation now where a show is going to last for 12 episodes. If it gets cancelled at the end, so be it. We're all used to being left on cliffhangers. But now, what was it on episode 6? There's a potential, I've seen you do something you shouldn't do. Now you're under my thumb. And it's resolved 20 minutes later. Why not build that up? Unless they've got, and I really doubt it now, some long, overreaching arc for this show. They've wasted these opportunities. Wilfred doesn't exist. Sorry, Carl.
Well, as far as we know. Unless you know something I don't. So
maybe I do, maybe I don't.
Okay.
So, and they could have kept that. They just don't want to keep any mystery. And I think that's what it is. You want to come away from, like Westworld Series 1, maybe a bit 2. You always came away thinking, and, you'd call me on your runs in the morning. We'd have a quick talk about it, this, that, and the other. And here we're just going, I don't like this, I don't like that. And I'm missing a show where you can get behind people and talk. And I don't want to bring up Game of Thrones, but maybe I'm just watching the wrong stuff. And by the way, before anyone says, you don't like all this new stuff, I what's it called? Bulk watched. No, what was it called? Binge watched The Politician. Quite liked it. So I don't hate everything, is what I'm trying to say.
No, it's not our goal. We don't set out to hate anything. Like I say, I think when we started this, we said it's a premise. It doesn't make much sense. But the problem is, if the storyline is good and the acting is good, you normally don't have enough time to consider the problems. You only tend to go back and nitpick when things are not going well, because you've got time to do it as your mind starts to wander. As soon as that moment comes into your brain, well, hang on a moment, what about this? And you start picking that thread and it unravels. That's not good. I mean, you can do that with every film. No film is without sin, as a certain famous YouTube channel says. And they're absolutely right. I mean, you can take some of the best movies of all time. The Godfather, for example, that's got problems. But the reason you're willing to accept that they're there is because the film overall is so awesome. So you don't worry about the little continuity errors and little things that, well, how did that happen? But because it's perfect almost, as it is. You don't nitpick it unless you're weird. But, you get other certain modern day films of a certain space-faring genre, which I'm not going to mention. And it only takes a few things to make you question everything, and it all falls apart instantly. The whole delicate house of cards just crumbles because they just don't take the time to set these things up properly anymore. I mean,
is it us? It's just, are we watching the wrong shows?
No.
If you had to look at this show, and bearing in mind it's got a little bit of violence, a little bit of gore, it's got some scenes with semi-naked people, quite a lot of proclivity, various things going on. And I was thinking about this before we started the show, who is this aimed at? What generation is this aimed at?
Well, let's see. It's all dark and brooding. Everyone's miserable. Everyone's going along. There's no real internal ambition for anyone. Everyone wants to get hook up with anyone they can actually hook up with. There's no. I think we know who this is aimed for.
We just didn't want to admit it to ourselves.
But no, it's just. I don't know. Maybe this is the norm now, and we're the weird ones. I don't know. I don't think so. But
I went back in. Do you remember the Battlestar Galactica reboot? And I went back and I just started watching a few episodes. And when you put something on in the background and you're on your phone, and then you start looking up for your phone a bit, and then you realise you put your phone down. Whereas shows like this and John Luke and all that, it's the opposite way round. I'm going, okay, my attention's gone now. And then bearing in mind, they binge watched the whole of the politicians. I don't think it's necessarily
no. I just think some of them get a bit too overreaching with what they think they're trying to go for, and they try and do this complicated plot and put these social issues in, and it just falls flat because it's just like I said before, like cartoon politics. It doesn't make any sense if you actually think about it.
Well, that brings us nicely on to our next one.
Yeah, so anyway, Snowpiercer, we're going to carry on watching it until its bitter end, but we're not enjoying it. I mean, if you're enjoying it, if you're enjoying it, just send us a message to let us know why we're totally wrong about this. Because I always like to know someone else's different opinion on it.
Sorry, man, I kept talking over you then because I just had an idea. I want to do Mark's plot hole of the week.
Well, I can tell you your plot hole. You wear a funny hat. So.
No, you're a plot hole. Right, so episode 1, I think it was, we're introduced to how cold it is,
yep.
Right? Yep. We then had another episode where, as a punishment, a woman had to stick her arm outside the train to, it's so cold it freezes the arm off. So we're told it's pretty bloody cold, right?
But why have that as a pun? I know that's in the movie, but why is that in the TV series?
We've been conditioned not to think, remember, okay. It just is. And I like the fact that they built this train specifically with apertures big enough to put your arm outside.
Convenient, considering they didn't know they were going to be on board, so convenient.
So it basically is a bit nippy, should we say. Now, in episode 6, can someone explain to me the logic behind, what was it they did? They drilled a hole in the side of the train so they could watch the scenery being projected onto a white wall.
But that would let in the cold. In fact,
that is Mark's plot hole of the week.
I don't know. Oh, I watched a bit where they did something to the roof ceiling of the carriage as well, and they pushed something out, and I was thinking, well, hang on, how can you do that? It's meant to be absolutely freezing out there. So
I don't know about you, but when it's like pretty nippy outside, I don't want to put my central heating on. The thing I don't do is go, you know what?
Drill a hole
through
the wall.
It'd be like my dad when he said, it's a bit stuffy and I'll open up a window. No, you bloody won't. I'm paying for the central heating.
So let's move on to something, well, I kind of enjoyed, actually, I got to say, but maybe for the wrong reasons. And that is a film that is on Netflix called Spenser Confidential with Mark Wahlberg. So it's your basic good cop, good cop trying to clear his name and sort things out and right or wrong and all this. So it's your very basic, movie fare, shall we say, with cops. I know we're meant to believe all cops are bad at the moment, but nonsense to that. But yeah, so it's now Spenser Confidential. I was watching this and I was thinking, this is based on something, isn't it? And it turns out it is. It's based on Spenser for Hire, which is an old TV show. Did you realise that, Mark?
Now you've said it, and it explains the ending. Because I thought, no spoilers here, but at the ending, I thought, is this going to be like a Marky Mark in the Funky Bunch with the weird people, John Wick sort of style bit of content? But now you said Spenser for Hire. I get
Yep, Spenser for Hire, old TV show from the 80s? Yep, late 80s. Robert Urich was in it, and Avery Brooks as well, playing obviously Spenser and Hawk, his buddy in this thing. And it's a bit similar. I don't think Spenser for Hire, he was a cop. He was a fighter. He was a boxer, I think, back then, but a failed boxer, I think. But eventually, they go off. He becomes a private detective and solves problems that people have. And this is kind of like an origin story for that. So, and like you say, the way it ends, it's sort of open-ended, and you think, we're going to get another Spenser movie at some point. I mean, it could work. It's not got very good ratings, unfortunately. On IMDb, it's up to 6.2, so it's above average.
Well, it's got, was it, a 62 on Rotten Tomatoes and a 68. But it is what I would call a standard Netflix film.
Mm. But
Because I mean,
it was entertaining. I mean, it was simple, but it told an age-old story in an entertaining way. I mean,
yeah,
didn't break new ground or anything like that, but it was an enjoyable hour and a half of watching it. Shall we
well,
say?
hour and 50.
Oh, right, okay. Well, here you go. It was a longer movie and it felt shorter. That's always a good sign.
Yeah, and this is the thing. Is like you can watch something like this and just do a gentle roll of the eyes. Well, no, because it's good enough to get sucked into, unlike Snowpiercer. However, I did get a bit offended right at the start. Right, so the always as the movie opens, we see a cop going beating up his sergeant. So first of all, when you've got the voiceover, why does the woman sound like she's in a courtroom? And Mark Wahlberg sounds like he's on a telephone. That got me.
He was phoning it in.
This is a bad thing about coming. And then, so he gets sent to prison. We have a long tracking shot of a prison. Long tracking shot going over a prison. The tracking shot showing the prison. And then we've got a shot on the top, and on white letters, it goes, prison. I'm thinking,
Just in case you're unsure.
you've kind of established that. and then it's like, oh.
But okay, yes, there are silly things like that in. But overall, the acting's fine. I mean, it's Mark Wahlberg, so don't expect.
It was Mark Wahlberg being very Bostonian.
Yes, that's true. Winston Duke is in this as well, playing Hawk as his buddy, who's fantastic in Us, and also in the Black Panther movies as well. Alan Arkin as well also turns up in this one. It's always good to see Alan Arkin. He always plays the same character these days as well, the crusty old cranky old man, which is basically us, I think.
What was that near the end where he's in a car with the main protagonist and they have a conversation? He basically just goes, I need a wee.
Antagonist,
or premise. Ugh.
God. Well, because he's trying to get out, isn't he? They've kidnapped him and he's trying to escape.
Yeah, but there was such a long gap in that conversation. It just seemed to go on for ages.
It's just meant to be a comedy bit. Well, obviously, it didn't land with you, I'm afraid.
No. No.
And I mean, the bad guy. If you can't spot who the bad guy is within the first few minutes, you're not paying attention. Because it's always like the bit part. Who you think, or who they're trying to pretend is the bit part, but it's obviously got an actor in it who's far too good to play a bit part, and you think, something up's there. And
this is the thing, it introduces this weird thing of, so he's out of prison and he decides that he wants to be a truck driver. Okay. And then we meet the psychotic ex-girlfriend that he's running away from.
Yep.
In my heart of hearts, do you know what I wanted the end to be? I wanted him and the girlfriend to be driving away in Black Betty.
Oh dear, no. See, so Black Betty, which is the name of the truck, is a very different variant of Chekhov's gun. So in this case, it's Chekhov's truck. So they show this that he gets very interested in his truck halfway through the movie, and you think, why? Where's this come from? And because it pays off at the end. That's why. It's
like, but it's just. I don't know what that bit added in, and
to let you know where he'd get it from. That's why.
You know what I wanted to do when I saw the bit with the truck? I really want to go and watch Over the Top with Sylvester Stallone.
Oh God! Is this the film where he changes gears about 24 different times? And I know trucks have a lot of gears, but still. Mind you, it's like when they do a car chase and the car seems to have about 16 gears. As
Motorbikes are the worst. Listen to how many times that bike will scream through the gears.
It's just amazing. And also changing down a gear makes you go faster. It's not when doesn't work for me when I'm on the M25 at 70 miles an hour. It just goes. But,
I think the film was all right. I can't, again, it was like an hour and 50, and you come away from it and go, well, that's all right. It wasn't anything. I did like the psycho girlfriend. I thought she was a good bit of comedy relief, even if it was a bit
It's
too...
a comedy film. It's definitely got its tongue in its cheek in certain bits. But then
you get the writing of... She goes to the jail to collect him. He runs away from her. He's then in the boxing place. is it the next day she turns up in the same stuff that she was wearing the day before? I don't know why I noticed that. And then just to go and say, I never want to see you again.
Well, he alluded to it. She's a bit crazy, so I guess I don't know. But on the whole, I mean, it's good. It's put together quite well. It holds your hand as it goes through the detective process, so you can see what he's thinking. It's pretty good, and some of the ways they use to get information out of people is quite funny, and the fights are quite good. I mean, it's your standard like private detective movie, really.
There's no shining thing about it. It's just something if you didn't have anything else to watch and you want to go Netflix, what can I put on?
It'll be a solid watch for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I would say it's a touch above what Netflix movies normally are. On the whole,
dude. I mean, Christ.
I mean, I'm excluding things like The Irishman and I think The Highwayman from that list, but I think it's worth a watch if you haven't seen it yet. If it just appears, as you scroll through various things on Netflix, it's worth checking out if you've got a couple hours spare and you're a bit lost on a Saturday or a Sunday afternoon. It's definitely worth a good viewing. But and it's not complicated, like I say. It holds your hand pretty much through the entire plot. There's some good character moments in it, some good fun characters in it as well, and the odd bit that might make you smile. And it's totally cliched, but then they know that going in.
And the end is especially cliched.
Yes. Very cliched.
You've summed it up perfectly. I want to give another honourable mention. If you do want something to watch, I actually watched The Wrong Missy, and I'm not ashamed to say I enjoyed it.
The what?
The Wrong Missy.
The Wrong Missy?
Yeah.
I've never heard of that.
Oh, there is your challenge for next week. Okay. And if you've watched The Wrong Missy, get a hold of us on the Twitter at watching_men. I can't remember what it was then. At watching_men.
We take 1 week off because I was exhausted last week. Ironically, I'm more exhausted this week, but we thought we had to do it because we can't miss a fortnight of shows. But yeah, so anything, if you disagree with anything we said today, please let us know. Or if you agree with anything you've heard today, let us know that as well. We'd love to hear from you. It's always good to have a bit of back and forth between the listeners. If there is anyone out there listening, we'd like to know it. And just share. And maybe tell us if you've discovered something on Netflix or Amazon Prime that you're not hearing getting a lot of play. Give us a shout and we'll check it out. Or if it's something if it's something you really hate, you really loathed it, or something you really loved, just send it our way. Because there's so much choice on there now. You sort of get a little bit lost when you go in looking for something to find. It's a bit disconcerting sometimes. How long I spend flicking through menus.
Yeah, I do that just to find a show that I've been watching.
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
Like I watch something, quit out of Apple TV, go back, and then spend about 20 minutes going, where is the show that I was just watching?
It's a modern day problem, I'm sure. So that's pretty much it from us this week. We'll be back again next week with more tales from Snowpiercer and probably another.
Carl, it's not as bad as Picard yet.
There's some fans of Picard out there. I don't know how, but they are, and more power to you. If you can find joy in that thing. Fantastic. I'm so envious. I'm so envious.
That was established over 20 years ago and no plot points and him being reduced to being called JL, then more power to you.
And on that note, until next week, everybody out there, stay safe and be nice to each other. Bye.
Ta-da.